Good afternoon. My name is Jana Meyer, and I'm an Associate Curator of Collections at the Filson Historical Society. Thank you for joining us for today's program. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our partners in this program, the American Institute of Architects Central Kentucky Chapter, and the University of Kentucky College of Design. Cherokee Henrie recently graduated from the University of Louisville, where she obtained her B.F.A. in Interior Design. She will continue her studies at the University of Louisville in the fall, pursuing a Master of Urban Planning with a concentration in community development. With a passion for historic preservation, she has focused her research on the adaptive reuse of historic structures. Please join me in welcoming Cherokee Henrie.
Today we explore the intricate dance between the old and the new, between preservation and innovation. Let's begin with a thought-provoking perspective from architect Rodolfo Mercado. In the process of remodeling, the past takes on a greater significance because it itself is the material to be altered and reshaped. The past provides the already written, the marked canvas on which each successive remodel will find its own place. Thus, the past becomes a package of sense, of built-up meaning to be accepted, maintained, transformed, or suppressed, refused. This quote encapsulates today's adaptive reuse and historic preservation discussion. How do we respect and preserve the already written while making space for the new? How do we interpret this package of sense in a way that both honors and reinvigorates? As we go through the lecture, we will examine how architects, planners, and communities are answering these questions. We'll explore examples that showcase the delicate balance of maintaining historical integrity while infusing modern vitality into spaces that tell our collective stories. As we move through these examples, I invite you to think about the spaces you interact with daily. How do they integrate the historical and the contemporary? How do they affect your sense of place and identity? Let's get into the principles of historical integrity, understand the transformative power of adaptive reuse, and explore how these concepts are being applied globally and locally to preserve our built heritage for future generations. Historical integrity is crucial for preservation and the narrative it continues to tell. Each component, from location to materials, plays a part in maintaining the authenticity and integrity of a site. Culturally, maintaining historical integrity allows us to preserve the rich tapestries of our past, reflecting diverse traditions and practices. Places like the Great Mosque of Jen serve as living museums, showcasing centuries of cultural evolution and architectural innovation. Educationally, these sites offer real-world classrooms where every stone and beam speaks. Students and scholars can study design and artistry firsthand, from the grand scale of Versailles layout to the intricate carvings of Henrie Castle. For communities, these historical sites are landmarks of identity and pride. Independence Hall, for example, isn't just a building. It symbolizes freedom and a central hub for civic engagement. The location and setting of historic property are essential for contextual integrity. The setting of the Palace of Versailles, with its meticulous designed gardens and grand architecture, directly connects to the opulence of the French monarchy and its historical impact. Design and materials tell the story of the era's technology and aesthetic preferences. Using local materials and specific design choices and structures like the Great Mosque of Jen illustrates how historical context and environmental adaptation guide architectural decisions. Workmanship demonstrates past builders and artisans' technical skills and artistic capabilities. The feeling evoked by these elements can transport visitors back in time, providing a palpable sense of the period's life and ethos. Association links buildings directly to the people and events shaping history. Independence Hall's association with the founding fathers of the United States provides a profound educational and cultural context that enhances its preservation value. By preserving these elements, we maintain a tangible connection to our history, enriching our cultural landscape and continuing to educate and inspire future generations through these stored structures. Adaptive reuse is a practice where old or historically significant buildings are repurposed for new uses, while retaining their original architectural features. This is not just renovation, but a reimagining of spaces to meet contemporary needs. This approach is fundamentally sustainable. By repurposing existing structures, we reduce the need for new resources and minimize construction waste. It's an effective method to combat urban sprawl and decrease the carbon footprint associated with building new structures. Economically, adaptive reuse injects life into underutilized or abandoned areas. Projects like the Distillery District in Toronto transform spaces into vibrant hubs for business, tourism, and local commerce, creating jobs and boosting local economies. A little fun fact about the Distillery District. It is very similar to Louisville's own bourbon corridor. So very similar concept. So they're like little twins. Urban development through adaptive reuse offers unique opportunities for cities to expand and diversify while maintaining their historical character. It helps preserve the urban and architectural heritage and provides residents with a sense of continuity. Sorry. The Tate Modern, once the Bankside Power Station, now stands as one of the world's most visited modern art galleries. Its transformation from an industrial site to a cultural landmark illustrates how adaptive reuse can blend history with modern functionality. Gasometer City in Vienna repurposed 4 giant gas storage tanks into a mixed-use complex featuring apartments, shopping centers, and a concert hall. This project highlights the innovative use of space and architectural creativity. Another cool fact about the Gasometer City is each of the cylinders was designed by a different architect. And so even though they all look very similar on the outside, which is historical preservation at work, all of the interiors are very, very unique and different, reflective of each architect's own spin on the project. The High Line is another stellar example of transforming a disused space. So they transformed a disused rail line into an elevated urban park. This provides green space in a dense cityscape and serves as a social gathering place that supports health and well-being. Adaptive reuse projects often become focal points for community and cultural activities, enhancing local engagement and pride. They provide a tangible connection to the past while serving present and future needs. In embracing adaptive reuse, we acknowledge the value of the past and its potential to enhance our present and future urban landscapes. Each project moves towards more sustainable, economically vibrant, and culturally rich environments. Okay, so now how do we blend those two together? Adaptive reuse and historic preservation are 2 approaches that at first glance may seem at odds. However, they share a common goal: to keep our built heritage relevant and functional in today's world. Let's explore how these concepts coexist and complement each other, offering a holistic approach to urban development and cultural conservation. At the intersection of adaptive reuse and historic preservation lies a multitude of benefits. Sustainability from extending the life of existing materials, economic benefits through revitalization of neighborhoods, and community engagement by repurposing spaces that invite public interaction and serve new social functions. The Venn diagram here illustrates both practices' shared goals and unique attributes. On one side, we have adaptive reuse, which emphasizes modern functionality and financial viability. On the other, historic preservation prioritizes authenticity and cultural significance. One of the main challenges in integrating these practices is maintaining a balance between modern needs and historical integrity. How do we incorporate contemporary requirements without compromising the very essence of what we seek to preserve? Navigating the regulatory framework can be complex, as preservation laws sometimes limit the extent of modification that can be made to historic structures. Finding a middle ground requires innovative design solutions and often a negotiation between preservation advocates and developers. Financial viability is also crucial. Adaptive reuse must make economic sense to attract investments. Yet the cost associated with preserving historical accuracy can be high. This necessitates creative financial strategies, including using grants and tax incentives. Public perception can also pose a challenge. There's a need for community buy-in. Residents need to feel connected to the project for it to truly benefit the community. This involves engaging with local stakeholders early in the planning process to align the project's goals with community needs. To address these challenges, successful projects often involve a multidisciplinary approach combining expertise in history, architecture, urban planning, and community relations. Examples of successful integration can lead to projects that are both economically viable and culturally enriching. Ultimately, integrating adaptive reuse with historic preservation represents a forward-thinking approach to urban development that respects our past while building for the future. As we continue to evolve our cities, let these practices guide us in creating meaningful and functional spaces. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and look at a project that didn't actually happen, unfortunately. So today we are going to explore a visionary project that was never realized but offers valuable lessons. The Ballard Mills proposal by architect Jasper Ward. This project intended to transform an industrial wheat processing plant into a vibrant residential and recreational space. Set in Louisville, this project aimed to repurpose the historic Ballard Mills, which once stood as a testament to industrial prowess in the region. Sorry. Apologies. Okay. Jasper Ward's proposal reimagined the Ballard Mills with a unique residential layout featuring apartments that retained the industrial aesthetic while integrating modern comforts. The design included a pool and a restaurant on the upper floors, aiming to create a multifunctional space that would serve both residents and visitors, enhancing lifestyle and local economy. Although the project was not built, its design respected the architectural and historical essence of the original structure, aiming to preserve its industrial heritage while adapting its function. The envisioned project was more than a housing solution. It was a potential hub for community engagement and economic revitalization, reflecting how adaptive reuse can stimulate local development. This proposal is a poignant example of the potential for adaptive reuse in Louisville. It highlights how visionary projects can transform underutilized industrial sites into thriving community assets. Discussing this project here in Louisville is especially relevant, as it allows us to consider the implications of past proposals on our current urban landscape and future possibilities. This building, originally constructed in 1898 as the private residence of Henry Vaux, stands as a testament to Louisville's architectural and cultural evolution. Over the decades, it has been adapted and reimagined, reflecting changes in use and community needs. In the 1930s, this building underwent its first significant transformation when it was converted into the Silver House and Gallery by Brainerd C. Lemon. This adaptation turned a private residence into a public cultural space showcasing the flexibility and potential of historic buildings to serve new community functions. The building's second life began in the 1970s, when it became the headquarters for Doe Anderson, one of the region's prominent advertising agencies. This adaptation highlights the building's ability to support commercial activities, contributing to a local economy while maintaining its historic charm. Today, the building stands boarded up, waiting for a new lease on life. Its history of adaptive reuse provides a strong foundation for future transformations. This building is not just a structure, it's a canvas for regeneration, ready to meet the needs of modern Louisville while preserving its historic essence. Adaptive reuse is more than preservation. It actively engages with history. By repurposing buildings like this, we maintain the architectural integrity and historical narrative while infusing them with new life and contemporary relevance. Imagine this space revitalized once more, perhaps as a community center, a boutique hotel, or a mixed-use development. Each potential use offers an opportunity to enhance local heritage tourism, provide community services, or create residential spaces that blend historical character with modern amenities. As we consider the future of such historic properties, it is crucial to involve community input, innovative architectural approaches, and sustainable practices to ensure these buildings continue to be integral parts of our urban fabric. The ongoing story of this building is a powerful example for cities like ours. It shows how adaptive reuse can be a sustainable approach in urban development, turning historical buildings into assets that enrich our community culturally and economically. Adaptive reuse and historic preservation are guided by standards and principles that ensure these practices enhance rather than detract from the historical value of properties. Let's discuss two key frameworks, the MPS standards and ICO-MOS principles. The National Park Service standards are designed to preserve the historical integrity of buildings and landscapes in the U.S. Key aspects include maintaining distinctive materials and features, repairing rather than replacing historical elements, and using reversible methods whenever possible to allow for future changes without permanent alterations. Globally, ICOMS, or the International Council on Monuments and Sites principles, promote the conservation of cultural heritage. They emphasize respecting sites' original character and cultural significance, ensuring alterations are minimal yet harmonious, and advocating for sustainable practices that limit the impact on the existing structure. Understanding these policies is just the beginning. Effective integration of adaptive reuse and historic preservation also relies on three strategic approaches: flexible zoning, stakeholder collaboration, and technical guidance. Flexible zoning allows for the unique needs of historical preservation projects, accommodating non-standard uses in areas typically restricted under normal zoning laws. This flexibility is crucial for adaptive reuse projects, which may not fit traditional zoning categories. Successful projects involve collaboration among a diverse group of stakeholders, including property owners, local communities, preservation experts, and government officials. This collaboration ensures that all perspectives are considered and that the project benefits the community as a whole. Technical guidance involves providing specific recommendations and practices to handle unique challenges of preserving historical properties while updating them for contemporary use. This may include specialized construction techniques, materials advice, and conservation methods. This infographic visually summarizes these strategies, presenting a clear pathway from policy understanding to practical implementation. This step-by-step approach helps ensure that projects not only comply with legal requirements, but also respect and enhance the historical value of the properties. By adhering to established guidelines and employing strategic planning and execution, we can successfully integrate adaptive reuse and historic preservation, ensuring that our heritage buildings continue to serve useful and vibrant roles in our communities. Okay, so what are some of the challenges? Adaptive reuse and historic preservation projects often face a series of perceived barriers. These include regulatory hurdles, funding constraints, and technical challenges. However, these barriers have viable solutions that can turn perceived obstacles into opportunities. So, problem. The regulatory frameworks can sometimes be rigid, making initiating or implementing adaptive reuse projects difficult. Approval processes may be lengthy, and zoning regulations may not favor adaptive reuse. A solution? Policy reforms are crucial. Streamlining approval processes and adjusting zoning regulations to support adaptive reuse can significantly ease these barriers. Such reforms make it easier for developers and conservationists to collaborate on preservation projects. Another problem, funding. Funding adaptive reuse and preservation projects can be daunting, particularly when the restoration costs are high. A solution? Exploring the diverse funding options that can alleviate this issue. Grants and tax incentives are available specifically for preservation projects. Furthermore, forming public-private partnerships can leverage additional finance support, spreading risk, and increasing resource availability. And then there's technical challenges. The technical demands of preserving historic integrity while incorporating modern functionalities can be complex. Investing in technical innovation is going to be key. Utilizing advanced materials and construction techniques that comply with preservation standards while providing modern efficiency is essential. Additionally, offering practitioners training and technical support ensures they are well equipped to handle the specific needs of preservation projects. Understanding these challenges and solutions demystifies the process and encourages stakeholders to engage more actively in preservation efforts. By addressing these issues head-on, we paved the way for more sustainable, culturally rich urban development. As we look towards the future of adaptive reuse and historic preservation, several key trends are emerging that will significantly shape our practice and priorities. The trends we are focusing on include a heightened emphasis on sustainability, advancements in technology within preservation, and the increasing importance of community-driven projects. To understand how these trends will influence our field, we can look at specific areas where their impact is already becoming evident. In the next few slides, we'll explore how these trends manifest in different aspects of urban development and preservation. We will begin by examining the relationship between life and economic activity over time, followed by the growing support for entrepreneurs. Finally, we'll look at the projected trends in sustainability, technology, and community projects between the years of 2024 to 2026. Today, we're going to focus on how the character of our urban spaces, particularly the mix of older and newer buildings, significantly influences nightlife and economic activity. This graph represents trends over time in neighborhoods found in Seattle, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco, showing a consistent increase in both domains. As you can see from the line graph, there has been a noticeable upward trend in both nightlife and economic activity. This illustrates the dynamic nature of mixed-age urban areas where diversity in building age contributes to vibrant social scenes and robust local economies. Nightlife activity is not just about entertainment, it's a critical economic driver. Areas with various building ages tend to attract diverse businesses, bars, restaurants, clubs, and live music venues. These establishments are vital for local economies, providing employment and promoting cultural exchange. The increase in economic activity alongside nightlife vibrancy highlights the relationship between social spaces and economic growth. When people gather for nightlife, they also spend on services and goods, boosting the local economy. This activity supports small businesses and encourages further investment in these areas. According to the Older, Smaller, Better report by the Preservation Green Lab, city blocks with mixed vintage buildings host greater cell phone activity in areas with older, smaller, mixed vintage buildings, which exhibit more vibrant nightlife, evidenced by this higher cell phone activity, and more businesses remaining open late into the night. This data underscores the role of older buildings in fostering lively, economically active urban areas. Sorry. So this graph tells a story of growth and potential. It challenges us to rethink how we view our old buildings, not just as relics of the past, but as active contributors to our future urban landscape. Moving forward, let's consider how our planning decisions can continue to enhance our city's liveliness and economic strength. Let's explore how the characteristics of our urban environment, specifically the diversity of building ages, impact entrepreneurial activity. This graph represents the trend of support for entrepreneurs with a specific focus on women and minority-owned businesses over time. As indicated by the rising bar in the graph, there's a clear and steady increase in support for entrepreneurs across the years. This trend is more pronounced for women and minority-owned businesses, highlighting a growing inclusivity in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The upward trend reflects an enhanced support system that includes financial incentives, network opportunities, mentorship programs, and policy reforms aimed at fostering a diverse perspective and aimed at fostering a diverse business landscape. This is crucial as diverse businesses bring varied perspectives and innovation, driving economic growth and resilience. Why focus on building diversity? Older, smaller buildings often provide more affordable and flexible commercial spaces than newer, larger structures. This affordability is vital for startups and small businesses, which are typically more sensitive to rental costs. Thus, a mix of building ages create fertile ground for entrepreneurship. The Older, Smaller, Better report highlights that in Seattle and Washington, D.C., neighborhoods with a smaller scale mix of old and new buildings host a significantly higher proportion of new businesses, as well as more women and minority-owned businesses than areas with predominantly larger, newer buildings. This data illustrates how older buildings contribute to a diverse and thriving entrepreneurial landscape. These positive trends underscore the importance of a thoughtful urban planning and preservation policy. Supporting a mix of old and new buildings not only conserves the architectural heritage, but also stimulates modern economic activities, making cities more inclusive and economically dynamic. To policymakers and urban planners listening today, this data advocates for policies that protect and utilize older buildings, not merely as historical artifacts, but as active assets that contribute to economic diversity and opportunity. Let's ensure these trends continue upwards by fostering environments that support all entrepreneurs. This graph illustrates the projected trends from 2024 to 2026 in three critical areas: sustainability, sustainability initiatives, the integration of technology and preservation, and the rise of community-driven projects. Each trend is crucial for the future of urban development and planning. The data for these projects comes from the APA 2024 Trend Report, which identifies key areas of growth and focus for planners. The green line represents the increased focus on sustainability. Notice the sharp upward trajectory indicating aggressive action towards decarbonization and stringent regulatory compliance. This reflects a global urgency to address climate change and environmental stewardship. According to the APA, there is a significant push towards sustainability in urban planning to combat climate change. The blue line shows the rise in technology adoption within the preservation sector. There's a steady increase driven by advancements in AI. These technologies enhance how we manage and preserve historical and cultural assets, making the process more efficient and less intrusive. The red line highlights the growth in community-driven initiatives. there's a significant upward trend, showcasing how urban development increasingly incorporates input and engagement from local communities to ensure that projects are inclusive and equitable. The APA emphasizes the rising trend of community engagement in urban planning projects, and it wants people to ensure that they meet local needs and values. Each of these trends plays a pivotal role in modern urban planning. Sustainability efforts are crucial for reducing our environmental impact. Preservation technology helps maintain our cultural heritage with greater accuracy and less physical intervention. And community-driven projects ensure that local residents' voices are heard and actively shape their environments. It's important to recognize the interconnectivity of these trends. As we push for more sustainable urban environments, the role of technology becomes more crucial, not just in terms of operational efficiency, but also in fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation of our historical context. Meanwhile, community engagement ensures that transition towards these new technologies and practices is smooth and socially inclusive. While these trends are promising, they also present challenges, such as funding, policy alignment, and the need for technological infrastructure. However, these challenges are outweighed by the opportunities they present for creating more livable, resilient, and inclusive cities. As stakeholders in urban development, from policymakers to architects, from historians to technologists, it's imperative that we collaborate to drive these trends forward. By embracing these changes, we can ensure our city's sustainable, well-preserved, and community-focused future. To conclude, this graph not only forecasts growth in these areas, but also serves as a call to action for all of us involved in shaping the future of urban living. Let's work together to turn these trends into reality, ensuring a sustainable, culturally rich, and inclusive future for the next generations. In a former presentation, I gathered responses from 30 attendees on what comes to mind when considering the impact of adaptive reuse projects in Louisville. What you see now is a word cloud reflecting the most commonly shared thoughts and phrases. The most prominent terms, housing, parks, revitalization, and community engagement, underscore the perceived benefits of adaptive reuse projects in terms of community well-being and environmental impact. Participants also highlighted diverse concepts such as green city, public transportation, fresh food access, and local landmarks like silos and Filson, indicating the wide-ranging impact these projects have on Louisville's identity. The word cloud showcases a blend of practical concerns, such as affordability and sustainability, and cultural heritage, such as honors history and authenticity, demonstrating the community's interest in balancing modernization with preservation. This word cloud provides a visual summary of community priorities, reinforcing the importance of adaptive reuse as a strategy that supports both environmental sustainability and the preservation of Louisville's unique character. Today, we've explored the transformative power of adaptive reuse and historic preservation, examining how these practices save buildings and revitalize our communities. We've looked at regulatory frameworks, funding mechanisms, technical challenges, and the innovative solutions that address them. We discussed specific projects in Louisville, Kentucky that demonstrate the impact of thoughtful preservation on our community's fabric, from the revitalization of historical sites to their new roles in our urban landscape. As we've seen, adaptive reuse and historic preservation are about more than just maintaining structures. They are crucial in maintaining our cultural identity and supporting sustainable urban growth. They allow us to honor our past while building a future that respects our heritage. Let's remember that our preservation work is not just about buildings. It's about people, the values we cherish, and the communities we strive to sustain and enhance. Each project is a step towards a more culturally rich and environmentally responsible future. To echo Richard Moe's words, there may have been a time when preservation was about saving an old building here and there, but those days are gone. Preservation is the business of saving communities and the values they embody. This statement made during a 1996 speech in Fresno, California, resonates deeply even today as we consider the role of adaptive reuse in our city. As you look at the images of the Clement House, the historic Quinn Chapel, and other local sites, think about how each represents not just a past era, but also a living part of our community's ongoing story. Thank you for your engagement today. I encourage you to continue exploring, supporting, and advocating for adaptive reuse and historic preservation projects. Together, we can ensure that our urban development is as rich in history as it is in innovation. As we wrap up, I want to emphasize the importance of your involvement in local preservation efforts. Adaptive reuse and historic preservation are community-driven initiatives, and your participation can make a significant difference. To help you get started or deepen your engagement, I've compiled a list of valuable resources. These include both further reading materials and local organizations that you can connect with. I encourage each of you to take a moment to explore these resources and consider how you can contribute to preserving our local heritage. Your involvement can help ensure that our historical sites continue telling their stories for generations. Thank you for your attention and participation today. Your engagement is crucial to the ongoing efforts in adaptive reuse and historic preservation. We've covered a lot of ground, from the importance of preserving our heritage to the innovative ways we can repurpose historic buildings for modern use. Each of you play a vital role in this process, whether through direct involvement or advocacy. I encourage you to apply the information and inspiration from today's session to your communities. Look for opportunities to support local preservation efforts, engage with organizations, and perhaps even start your own projects. If you have any questions or ideas or need further information, please don't hesitate to reach out. My contact details are on the slide. Again, thank you for being here and your commitment to preserving our cultural heritage. A lasting impact on our community and environment.